Hello, we are here in Chennai. Welcome to Chennai to Fika. This was an old property which has been converted into an exhibition space. From what we hear from Professor Janardhan and his friends here is that this is the most happening place in Chennai, and the ambience that we have here is phenomenal, as you can see behind me probably, and we'll also add in some shots in between. There's an amazing amount of people here who are buying pens and inks and stationery, and all sorts of things are here. But more important than that, most important, is we have with us three of India's top collectors, two collectors and one user, and one museum owner. One museum owner,
user.
two museum owners, three museum owners, you
And users.
and users, and fountain pen lovers and collectors. So I don't think there's more representative of the fountain pen industry anywhere else. More people in one sitting, and we are here. We've got all three of them here for you. So I will request Professor Janardhan to please introduce his friends to our audience, and so that we can carry on this conversation, and you people can get to know what fountain pen collecting is all about. Sir.
Wonderful, Chom. I still haven't been given a knighthood. So you can call me Jay or Jana as he calls me. Right? Anyway, today being the 8th of March, Women's Day, we don't want to leave you out. Happy Women's Day. Otherwise, they may say all MCPs are standing here. All right. It's a candid one, so I think it's taken in the lighter sense. See, to my right is a great friend of mine called Professor Madhu Krishna. He is an artist and who teaches art in various art schools, not only in India but in Europe. And I became a friend of his on the earlier Twitter, which is now X. Though my account is gone, we still have the relationship. He had come across to see my museum a few months ago, and he's got a fantastic collection of fountain pens. Name it, Mont Blanc, Pelican, Lamy, in all those pristine condition in beautiful boxes in his wonderful studio in Egmore. That's where I met him, and we have struck up because the common ground is pens, inks, paper, art. And I should tell you that he gave me a vintage old big bottle, and when I carried it back from Chennai, most of my friends who were around, and when I was going back carrying this bottle, what is that whiskey, what is that whiskey, it's not whiskey, it's an ink. They didn't believe because it looked like a beautiful whiskey bottle. It was swan ink from England. 60 years ago they had bought it, and it's got a very, very special place in my museum today. Now I want to ask Professor Madhu Krishna, what brought him into the world of fountain pens and writing, because today many people have forgotten what is writing and fountain pens, and then we are trying to revive and bring it back to the next generation. We are very happy that there are almost 40 plus stalls over here in this venue. 100 plus brands are being presented to the public, and we are amazed with the kind of response we have got. So many people coming down on a Women's Day, and today is supposed to be an auspicious day called Mahashivratri, right? So many people showing interest is very exciting and a good sign for the future. Now, for the inputs from Professor Madhu Krishna.
Thank you very much for the nice evening and also for your wonderful presentation. It all started long ago, my interest for the pens. I think my grandfather was in London. He used to have a perfumery business, and he used to have a company in London, proper London. And those times, they all had this flexibleness to write, which gave this line quality, was a thin and thick line. So the general writing itself was like calligraphy, which was a British accepted norm for your everyday correspondence. So my grandfather became the scribe of the company. All the letters he used to write personally and also send it to the customers and all that for approvals and whatever. Because he was in the perfume, so every perfume I made, the formulae and things like that. He exchanged notes with other companies and all that. My dad and my mom, interestingly, they also had very interesting handwriting. All these made me inspiration, like they were so inspirational when I see these people writing so well right from the beginning. And it so happened I picked up interest for art and design and painting right from my childhood. And as I grew, I know, like of course, I always wanted to ape my dad's handwriting, which is very complicated. He was writing in the copper plate.
Copper plate, yes.
Plate nonchalantly. He was not taking any extra strain or whatever. He didn't even have the rule paper. On a full sheet of paper, I will hardly see 10 sentences there. All, like beautiful, what do you call it? This kind of decorative. Everything page was like a Magna Carta and the manuscript pages. Right. Beautiful, absolutely wonderful. This is what, the starting point of my interest for fountain pens. Of course, he had a very good collection of pens, which I always admiring. Like your Watermans, Mobitods, and your Mont Blancs. That was all, fashion. Inks, and he had that roller closing kind of a desk.
Okay.
Roll top.
Yeah, roll top. You put it down.
Roll top desk where he had secured all these,
Like pigeonhole.
exactly. Inks were there, it's all stacked up properly and neatly.
Arranged.
And it was, the very, all these things, put me onto this track of, pens, and that gave me the introduction to the pens. And of course, all this, when he passed away, and of course, naturally, the collection became mine. And, over a period of time, grandfather's collections, and then my own collection, because I also became graphic designer over a period of time. Then once I became the graphic designer, calligraphy was a part of our studies. So the idea of handwriting, writing systems of the world, the development, the evolution of the writing systems, all which became a part of my study. So then naturally my interest, for the evolution of pen, fountain pen, how it all started and what kind of pens were there. All that one after that, my curiosity was aroused, and I had that beautiful volumes of books on pens, which I have 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah.
Encyclopedia of pens, which I have somehow collected all those books. And first books came into my life, and then looking into the plates, and then one after the other. Now I have a huge collection of pens, interestingly covering almost all the brands, at least 1 or 2 from the different kind of pens. And of course, as Professor Janardhan says, it's always a pleasure to write. The sensory feeling is there, and also takes me back to that period. And in my own world, that created a beautiful feeling is there. So nice to be in the world of
What
pens.
emerges is, when Professor Madhu Krishna says, my grandfather had a beautiful writing, my father wrote in copper plate, and that was the kind of writing that was in vogue in England those days. Even today, all invitations that are sent out of the Buckingham Palace or from the Windsor Castle or any of those 5, houses of the royal family, it says that all invites should be in copper plate style. That was a dictum, and everybody wrote beautifully like that. So there's a very clear message coming out from him that, today's parents who are in your anywhere between 20s to your 40s, if you don't write properly, how are you going to encourage your children to write properly? And I've had many of them complaining, tell my son and daughter to write, tell them to read. I had a very interesting episode a few years back in William Penn in Bangalore. So one couple came and said, tell my son to read, tell my daughter to read, and then write. And very quickly, they were the early teenagers, about 12 and 13. They said, I've never seen my father and mother read or write. So when
How can you ask me?
I have not seen them read or write, and they're asking me to read and write. So the message is very clear that as parents or as teachers, if you are able to write well, you will be able to influence the next generation to write well. The buttery feel, now the sensory touch that he was referring to, all that is being lost out. Please see that you keep it alive. We are doing our best to keep this art form of handwriting alive for posterity and the habit of handwriting going on. And collectors like them, when they've collected so many pens, it's inspiring and motivating when people go see the collection It's a new world that people are exposed to. And for the last 5 years, I've also been talking to my other friend here. He was in Middle East. He was heading a large corporate, head of finance, and he is a collector who's collected all kinds of things. And he called me up and said, I have this. You have a museum. Then I said, okay, you seem to have more than a museum with you. He's got boxes and boxes of various brands. Dinesh Chand, and I was supposed to meet him in Kodai, but then he also came down a few months back to meet me in Bangalore. Now we are all meeting here. It's a beautiful place. Now this man is no less a collector. He's got more than 7,000 pens. He writes about all those pens. Inkedhappiness.com. Visit that and see various stories he's written. And now he's into YouTube and he's made a lot of videos about various pens, inks, whatnot. So it's a congregation of collectors, users, promoters, whatnot. You can't expect something better this evening in Chennai to take this forward for the next few generations. So over to Mr. Dinesh, what made you collect all those kind of items?
Actually, for me, my dad had a few pens. I remember he had a very good handwriting, and probably he had about 10-12 pens, not very high end, but the regular in those days, the Parker and the Shaker, but he had a very good handwriting. Unfortunately for me, my handwriting was very bad. But my dad on my
No, I want to intercept here.
Yeah.
Don't say my handwriting was bad, because many people who say their handwriting is bad is not their fault. It is a system failure.
No, they didn't teach me, and I
Yeah, they didn't
concentrate.
teach you properly. So how
I
can
don't
you?
write well? So I didn't give much importance to writing. But for my 10th exam, I still remember, my dad gave me a Mont Blanc for my exam. Hoping
Wow.
that at least in the luck of the pen, this
For
guy
a
will
10th
pass.
examination of Mont Blanc, what a prized possession
But
to
it was
write.
not a high-end Mont Blanc. It was one of the.
No, but
very-
still it was a Mont
Whatever,
Blanc
It
because
was a Mont Blanc.
Had the snow capped peak.
Yes.
So I didn't know it at that time because we didn't have net or anything. It was a plastic pen with a metal cap. I miraculously passed the 10th. So probably even in my 12th grade, he gave me another one. The same thing and another one. So I had two pens and then I inherited this 12th. Then by the time I passed 12th, I realized that these were more like a jewel to use than actual writing things. So then I used to love them. Then I went into the mechanism. I used to study the mechanism. So I got into ballpoints also. So I used to repair them. So that gave me the interest, and then I started collecting. I used to pick it up in India of those days. The best place to pick up was More Market. So I used to go there every other day, pick up 1 or 2 pens for those days 10, 20. 20 rupees was big money. So that's all I could afford. So like that I started my collection. Now, then I went to the Middle East, there for about 20 years. There I came across all the big brands and your money power is more. So picked up some good brands, good pens.
what is the feel that you both get when you hold that pen
The joy
or
that
when
you want
you
something.
have that collection? Now, what is that feeling? What is that emotion that binds you to these pens?
I think it takes us back to the period,
And-
memories, and also perhaps that sensory feel, like some satisfaction
satisfaction.
in writing.
And more so, that's one thing which you can flaunt other than anything else. Like you can wear a watch, that only at angles. But a pen is something, a first.
On a Women's Day, we would want to tell these are men's jewelry,
Yeah.
right?
No, that is one thing. Like, first thing when you look at it, I look at what you're carrying, the pen.
Yes.
You might wear a very expensive glasses, you might wear a very expensive shoes, but the first thing which goes in your eye light is your pen.
That announces that you have arrived.
Yes.
Right?
Screams.
And you are somebody different from the norm.
Correct.
Like you wear a good pen. I normally don't wear a shirt. I only wear a t-shirt. But I wore a shirt today because I need to carry a good pen. So that's the
Interesting
thing.
stories around that. I mean, Delhiites, please don't mistake me, because when I went to Delhi some time ago, somebody told me, please don't ask any Delhiite if you see them carrying a Mont Blanc to lend their pen to write and show. I said, why? What's the problem? Normally I don't ask them. They said, nahi, people only run around with a cap.
Yeah. That's
They don't have the
body.
body. It's
Because
just
why spend money on the whole pen when you can just buy
it's
the
a
cap?
status symbol that I have a Mont Blanc. As you were saying, people first look at your pocket,
Yeah.
what you are carrying, and they only
They
carry the
calculate.
Dakkan. They said, सिर्फ Dakkan मिलेगा, अंदर कलम नहीं रहेगा. And He has an interesting story about how he tried to pick up a Mont Blanc from somebody when he was traveling in a bus. He was just sharing it with us. Interesting stories, which would be, for people of interest with the fountain pens or so, how it draws you, the kind of magnetism it has. He will share that soon.
This was way back in the 70s when I was still a college student. I was going in the bus and I see this guy carrying a gold Mont Blanc. And I knew there was something wrong because it really didn't match the person's profile. So I got down in the same stop where he got down and I approached him to write with it. And he lent me his pen. The minute I looked at it, I knew it was a drop pen because I saw a couple of dents and I knew he didn't know the value. So I gave him my number and I said, any day if you're willing to sell it, I'm a collector. You tell me, I will buy it off. He said, okay, he took my number. Then he walked a few steps and then he turned back. He said, how much will you give? I had about 60 rupees. I said, okay, I'll give you 50 rupees. He said, give me 100. I said, no, 50 is all what I have. And he thought for a little while and he gave, that's it. So that was my first
He picked
buy.
up a Mont Blanc. Even in 70s, 50 rupees was
Something
a steal.
Steal, yeah.
It was a steal. And I tell you, people who like these pens, one look at it and they can make out which is original or which is fake. Whether he is the owner or he is the person who's picked it up from somewhere. Interesting things, how the body language and what somebody carries portrays. A pen can tell 1,000 stories.
Definitely.
So more than anything else, the passion.
Yes.
The passion that, binds you to the pen.
The minute you hold it,
So
feeling
many
you
times, I'll tell you one thing, sir. If he were to ask you to give him your pen, you would think twice. All of us would. Because we don't normally people come to the bank and say, Dada, can I have your pen? It's part of our life. We cannot give it away to someone.
Now, to add to it, if I tell you, it's almost like asking somebody, can you lend your wife?
No, I mean,
it is so personal.
more than that.
It's more than that. So you see, we were at, lending the pen. You can't lend pens. You can't swap them also. But I'm swapped here because of the mic. That we can do, but not with the pen. So anybody who's got a good fountain pen and it has been bedded well, it's called bedding. And it flows smoothly and the particular angle it writes beautifully, you can never lend it to anybody unless somebody knows how to handle the fountain pen. Otherwise, it's very difficult. So they will all agree. The fountain pen, as Tom was saying, is much more than your wife. If somebody asks for a pen,
everyone.
yeah, I know. Now he was saying in the banks we used to face those days. When you carry this pen, somebody will say, "Sir, pen kudunga. Sir, give me a pen. I want to write." You would say, "No." Even today, when they ask me, I say, "No, it's a fountain pen." Somebody looks at me like that. Huh? What so? Sorry, you need to be trained to be writing with it. Otherwise, I can't give you. Then somebody looks at me intrigued. Sorry, we don't lend pens. You want to buy your own pen and write with it. But many times when you lend a pen, it never comes back. Especially in a bank, the guy is in a hurry. He's writing that, giving there, and then off. So he had a miraculous capture, a recapture of his pen in a bank.
I lent my Cartier to somebody who was on a two-wheeler, and the guy was banking on me to take the bus so that I forget the pen and take the bus. And I was so sure that I will take back, because that cost more money than the two-wheeler he was on. So I waited. And I have another problem. See, whenever I go in any crowd or anywhere, anybody is carrying a pen, I give it a second look just to study, make sure what. A lot of people mistake me for pickpocket. Like the guy is looking into the pocket. So maybe he's trying to. Well, I've literally had people, when I give the second look, no, they do this.
Are you stealing hearts?
Not hard. I mean, they literally grab the pen and say, hey.
I can understand. When you really stare at somebody's pocket or so, they feel very insecure.
In case he's got some money or something, he thinks like this guy is looking into my pocket, so probably he knows they do this. I've had people who literally do this.
So, ladies and gentlemen, youngsters, if somebody is ogling at your pocket and if you're carrying a pen, you should know that there is a pen lover in front of you, and not somebody who's ogling at you. What a lovely evening in this nice setting. And then we are actually, boxed into a kind of a fika corner, because everywhere else it's noisy and too many people. But it's a wonderful place to be in for four of us to catch up with some lovely memories and interesting stories. Maybe we have some more for tomorrow and day after.
Yeah,
We look
we'll catch
forward
up
to more stories. Thank you for being patient with us
you.
to
Thank
listen
you.
to all that, kind of, what do you call, informal
Episodes.
chats we have had about fountain pens.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.